We are back. A's Baseball, past, present, future. I'm Ralph Tyko from the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and the host of the show is Patrick Tracey. How are you, sir?
I'm quite well, and yourself?
I can't complain. All is nice. It's a Good Friday, and I'm not even Catholic.
No pun intended. They're all good.
So, yeah, absolutely. So, for those reasons, it's truly a Good Friday. And others, too. We get to share some Oakland athletic talk, which is, teams turned out to be fairly interesting. And I'm going to make my observation of what's gone down since the most important thing since we've talked is I can't pronounce his name, Jarrell Cotton, who came back. He happens to be on my fantasy Roto League team, came back in his second start and blew him away. Comparisons to some great ones. And I'll start with that as the highlight of the last week or so since we've talked.
Yeah, he definitely pitched a great game, quality start. As you mentioned, the comparisons, Pedro Martinez compared to himself, and Jarrell Cotton admired Pedro as a kid, kind of tried to emulate him, so he was on cloud nine when Pedro said, yeah, this kid kind of looks like me, slight build, I think they're 5'9", 5'10", not a big guy by any stretch of the imagination, and he had a great start. That the Reddick trade is looking pretty good. You know, Jarrell Cotton.
It is looking incredibly good, and ironically, he's coming back this weekend to play in Oakland, and he has fond memories. Do you look back upon him as a real plus for the organization overall?
He's definitely a fan favorite. The way he interacted with the fans in right field, I think he's going to get a warm reception. And he was just such a character, clubhouse leader, the pie in the face things.
Right.
You know, as a person, great. Teammate, great. Team leader, great. But as a ball player, he had some holes in his game. He's never hit left-handed pitching, so he's almost a platoon player. And he wanted, the money of a well-rounded player. So, his arm was great coming up. The last couple of years with the A's, his arm declined a little bit. He really wasn't a gold glove caliber outfielder anymore, so I know it broke a few hearts when the A's traded him or refused to sign him to a long-term deal, but I think it was the right move. Yeah.
There's a time that comes. It's almost secular, or and players know it, and he got some bucks, and he stays in the game. Does the offense scare you a little bit about this year's team? Big disappointment at third base. I can't pronounce his name either. Beef is hitting like 188. They've been playing Rosales there a little bit, and how many times he's been back and forth from the A's to Texas, back to Texas, back to the A's. I like him. I think he's a solid guy off the bench. How do you feel about him?
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on there, Ralph. He's definitely a great utility player, can play all four infield positions and both corner outfield positions, hustles. Last year hit 12 home runs, his career high.
Right.
So he's got a little pop in his bat, especially against left-handed pitchers. And once again, a good clubhouse guy, they say. One of the
not an everyday player.
No, not an everyday player, but good clubhouse guys. One of the things I think Billy Beane was looking for to add to the roster was good clubhouse guys. So I'm glad he's part of the team. I think he'll be a valuable component as a reserve bench player, substitute. Somebody gets hurt, you can plug him in.
Right.
Definitely not a star, but you're right. You're spot on again with the A's offense. They are definitely not clicking on all cylinders. Simeon, Rajay Davis are both below the Mendoza line at this point. Lowry's off to a good start, but I don't think anybody expected them to be an offensive juggernaut. It's kind of amazing they're really not hitting that well, and they've made 9 errors in 9 games or some crazy thing like that.
Right.
But they're at 500.
Alonso at first has really shown sparks. Nice to have a young guy who's got an upside the way I see it.
Yeah, apparently he spent the offseason tinkering with his swing and made some modifications, and his swing looks good. He had a good solid spring, and he's off to a good start. So, I'm a regular Svengali. I said hopefully the A's would be at 500 this year, and we're 5% into the season, and the A's are right at 500. So I'm going to go buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah. When you're an A's fan, you have to judge things a little bit differently. First of all, there's a totally uneven playing field in baseball. And good, bad, or indifferent, the A's are looked at as a small market team only because of the antiquated stadium that will soon be replaced. So that they don't have the money. They're at the liberty of baseball passing on some bucks to them, as they do, to take care of the teams that don't have the money. But their payroll is like, no exaggeration, half of what most teams are. So to be 500, I look at it with Billy Beane and the boys, bang for the bucks. And
exactly.
He always seems to get that, and that's what keeps the small but incredibly loyal fan base going. Because if you're just looking at it, if you're not a fanatic and you go, hey, this team buys good players, they trade them off at the trading deadline for prospects, they develop the prospects a little bit, they trade them off, and it's up and down and back and forth. But there's no way, and no other way for Billy Beane. And now that there'll be an infusion of bucks, it'll become a commodity. The A's franchise will be a commodity. They'll have a ballpark. All that'll change, and the same Billy Beane brain will go with it. It's not enough just to have a big payroll, as Steinbrenner learned early on, and then when he left, it was built into a good team. But it's what you do with the money. And my God, Beane's got a brain, and he has an organization set up that with the money, and if you talk about bang for big money, they're going to be set for a long time. I think. I saw a stat somewhere, and forgive me, I can't remember where or the exact details, but it was wins per dollar. So they took how many wins your team had divided by your payroll. And if you look at, and that's one way to look at how well your front office is operating. And the A's are by far the best team in the past decade, if not longer.
per wins per dollar. Even when they go 500 and win 80 games, they do that with an $80 million payroll. So, as opposed to the Yankees who went 500 with a, $160 million payroll. So they paid $1 million more per win than the A's did.
Patrick, that leads me to something I've wanted to talk to you about, and that's the movie Moneyball. And I want to get your take on it. I want to get your take on how Art Howe was portrayed and how accurate they made the Billy Bean character. I thought it was uncanny. He looked like him, mannerisms, incredible. What do you think of the movie overall?
Well, so I have a two-part answer, if I may. One, as an entertainment piece, I enjoyed the movie. It's one of those ones where if I'm surfing and I stumble upon it, I always stop and watch it. It was a pet project of Brad Pitt's. He spent years trying to get that thing made, and he was fabulous in it. So for pure entertainment, great film. In terms of
the bit with his daughter, with Billy Bean's daughter, and the music that went with that, from that standpoint, it was a tearjerker in a way, and but you have another part too.
Yes, exactly. So it's not a documentary, right? It doesn't claim to be a documentary, and it's not. So you compare the movie to the book, which is it's a great book, but they definitely made a Hollywood movie out of the book. Merged characters, changed things, completely omitted huge parts of the team. Right? You watch the movie, you'd never know that the big three was part of the team. They get focused on Hatterberg and Chad Bradford and all the quote-unquote Moneyball players. But they had all-stars, Miguel Tejada, Jason Giambi in the big three, which played a pretty big part in their success. So the movie's great. It's entertainment. It's Hollywood. Certainly, if somebody's going to watch it, I would say this is not how it really happened. The book is great. I've read it a couple times. Michael Lewis is one of my favorite authors. I've read, I think, almost everything. And then, living through the season was kind of a personal experience of how great that was in the winning streak, and then the heartbreak at the end of the year.
One remembers the Bill King call, which all of that.
They put that on his bobblehead. That's the call they put on the Bill King bobblehead. When Hatterberg hits the home run. Yeah. No, that was great.
I didn't know that. And does it have one of those things where you hear the voice, where you could push the button and hear the voice?
Yeah, exactly. You push the button and you hear Bill make that home run call.
Whoa. What a classic bobblehead that is.
Yeah.
Because that epitomized. They also didn't mention Chavez.
Exactly. Another player who was a big part of that team. Like I said, you watch the movie, you'd think it was just these fringe players, but they had some really, really good players who are highlighted in the book, and certainly were highlighted in real life as you watch the team. But in the movie, you would never know they were there.
There were some great scenes, though, when Billy Bean and the character that played Washington called on Hatterberg at his house, and it was like the Scrooge days. Like, these guys are coming to give him a contract. I mean, Hatterberg, you play in the major leagues for 4, 5, 6 years. You're going to accumulate a lot of money. It really isn't whether they did that intentionally to make it seem like they were saving this guy from poverty. and they were so good. The husband and the wife were so grateful that the Beans came by and all or Bean and the A's came by. It was schmaltzy. It was well done. Melodrama, right? Exactly what you'd want for Hollywood, and it did get into the numbers a little bit. And can you tell me the part of the movie that was portrayed accurately in your eyes?
Oh gosh, I mean there were snippets here and there, but it's hard to say. Certainly the part about Billy Beane not watching the games was true to form, right? He'd always not watch the game, so that was accurate. The part about teaching Hatterberg to play first base, I think, was pretty accurate, and how bad he was at the beginning of the process. But
the scouts and the relationship with Grady Fuson, I think that Billy Beane had the old school scout that really had a hard time accepting the concept of analytical statistics and the combination of two deciding. And Billy was taking it he was going all the way with it. Most teams have introduced in their scouting system analytic scouting, but Absolutely. He went overboard. I wonder if he went as overboard in real life. Obviously not. With the big three, with Chavez, with Tejada, it wasn't, as you say, just about Hatterberg. But a good movie.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the part of the movie that really speaks to me is how the juxtaposition of Billy Beane's career as a player versus the Moneyball analytical approach, right? Because he was the archetypal old style 5-tool, going to be great, the kind of player that scouts loved, and he
was a number one draft choice with the Mets, and
but he was not a very good player. So for him to embrace analytics over the old style of eyeballing a player and valuing certain tools was not only a shift professionally, but it also he had to come to terms with how that impacted himself. Right?
Yeah, the movie had him going back to flashbacks about his failures. And, we put this into perspective. His failures, he made the major leagues.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what is it, 0.001% or something?
Yeah, that ever played Little League ball or thought about playing Little League ball. So we look at it, there's an overall mindset of comparing these guys and basing our judgments of them on their numbers and their careers. I base my judgment of the guy on his relationship with his daughter and how that when it came time for him to consider moving to Boston, he was estranged from his wife, and his wife was living in Southern California and all of that, how that played so heavily in his decision-making process not to leave Oakland. So he was a human being, no matter how that worked out, not moving to Boston, and as a matter of fact, he's got an ownership in the A's that they give, not the ownership, but he's got part ownership in the A's to stick around. Imagine how much that will, in the next 5 years, that the worth of that will increase. So
long-term good decision. He turned down the short-term cash being
for the right reason.
Highest paid. Right, he would have been. I think the highest paid GM in all of sports, or definitely baseball. I think all of sports. If he would have taken the Boston Red Sox offer, turned it down, and like you said, now I think he's got 5 or 10% ownership of the A's. And when they get their new stadium and they're winning World Series, that's going to be worth a lot of money.
Yeah, that daughter's grandkids are going to be taken care of.
But yeah, when you started out talking about the events of the week, I know that Jarrell Cotton helped your fantasy league, so congratulations on that. But the other big news this week was the tarps coming off the third deck.
I was going to get to that. Isn't that pleasurable? That in itself shows me that they're at least saying that we can draw the fans. Come on out and let those fans who enjoyed the upper deck experience of not paying buku bucks for tickets and just sitting up in the, like any stadium attendees have, like, whatever group they're in, whatever section they're accustomed to sitting in, they see the same people on a regular basis, and they form ties with those people. And it looks good driving by the Coliseum from the outside on Doolittle Road, which I do little. It's a good road to drive down. I don't know. And you look and you see the Coliseum without those tops. And baseball season's here, and the weather's getting a little nice. It's breaking in Northern California. With third base, I hate to skip around a little bit, but you mentioned third base, and this guy's hitting 188. I can't pronounce his name. Chapman's obviously the guy of the future. Have you kept track of how he's doing early on in?
That is the one. I say one of the few kind of bummers so far this season is Matt Chapman, the A's number 4 prospect in their system, is actually on the disabled list with a sprained wrist. He played 2 games, was in his third game as check swing and hurt his wrist. No structural damage, they think, but he missed most of the season, I think 2-3 years ago, with the same wrist injury. So everyone is kind of walking on eggshells right now.
You hope it's not the hamate bone, which
that's the one, right?
Oh yeah, because I remember Pablo Sandoval suffering both wrists with that. It comes from just an incredible amount of torque that you put on your body, and the hamate bone itself is absolutely useless. But you take it out, there's like 6 weeks of recovery.
Right.
So let's hope that's
kind of the
not
tonsils it's the tonsils of your hand, I think, hand and wrist, of the appendix or something. I don't know, there's some analogy. But anyway, so Chapman, they're definitely counting on him to be their, I think, starting third baseman next year. So if he misses a big chunk of this season, that could be problematic for that plan. But fingers crossed, it was just a little hiccup. But hopefully he'll be better. But he's definitely the third baseman of the future. Franklin Beretta, the A's number 1 prospect, who's down at Nashville, alternating between short and second, pretty much on a daily basis, is off to a great start. So he's batting over 400. Sure, it's a small sample size, but I'd rather get off to a good start than a bad start. So we're excited about him because we have him penciled in to start at second base next year. So
absolutely. And speaking of the double play combination this year, I think that's been one of the pluses. Not offensively, Simeon's off to a horrible start offensively, but defensively they do it. They're steady.
Yeah. Simeon's definitely improved his game over the past couple of years after leading baseball in errors 2 years ago, and Jed Lowry, who's never been known for his defense, but as you said, he's steady. He's healthy. His range is improved, and they're strong up the middle.
And with Rajay in center, another guy who's a lot of pressure on him at the top of the lineup, and he hasn't really been an everyday player, but his defense is terrific. And I'm a big proponent in if you're strong up the middle, it really helps, especially with a pitching team. They've got a lot of young pitchers. You don't want to force them into having guys on base unnecessarily.
Yeah, but you're right. Catching, shortstop, second, and center field, the A's are better than they've been in the past couple of years. As I mentioned earlier, they have, I think, 9 or 10 errors in 9 or 10 games. It's a little bit misleading because 5 of those errors have been made by pitchers, which is crazy statistically. Last year, I think the pitching staff made 2 errors all year, and they've made 5 in the first
5 already in the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll get that corrected.
Yeah, it doesn't look to be one of those years where there's nothing to hope for the future. Where the last 2 years have been that way, where you look, wow, this is just not the direction they should be going. You see them going in a proper direction, and it's made a difference on a number of different levels. This has been a good show, sir.
Oh, well, thoroughly enjoyed it myself. Love talking A's baseball with you, Ralph.
I do, too. And let's keep doing it. Same time, same bat station, as Alan Blumpkin would say next week. And I just want, the only thing is, as I search my mind for what didn't I ask you, one very important thing does come to mind. How is Sonny Gray progressing in his quest to come back?
Looking good. All systems go. He 3 simulated innings yesterday. They're sending him to extended spring training. He'll pitch simulated 3 innings there, I think, in a couple of days, and then he'll do his rehab. He is on track for end of April, beginning of May. If the A's stay on turn, his spot in the rotation, which is currently being held down by Jesse Hahn, would come up April 29th. So we'll circle that day on our calendar.
Had a good outing the other day, too. And he started off very shaky, and he pitched in some tough luck.
For your number 5 starter, he kept him in the game, which is all you can hope for, right? 6 innings, 3 runs.
No question. So they're making do, but it will be nice to have the ace back.
Absolutely.
Good. So let's end it on that positive note. And thank you, Patrick. I enjoy your company talking A's.
My pleasure. We'll see you next week.
And to those of you out there, I'll just say keep on keeping on. And please tell your friends about us. And we'll catch you next week. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.